Coffee with Jeff. Coffee with Jeff. Coffee with Jeff. Coffee.
Well, hello, how are you? My name is Jeff. I'm so glad you could be with me today. Now, before we get started, for the record, and I know you're worried out there, I'm doing fine. Thanks for asking. I'm feeling great. I'm almost back to normal. So thank you for all the good vibes you guys sent me 2 weeks ago. I really appreciate it. Now, as far as the movie goes, if I was smart, I would have done this movie 2 months ago. But the thing is, I'm trying to do them in order and, well, sort of, I guess. Anyway, so let's just pretend for today that it's late December and I'm going to wish you a happy holiday. Anyway, I'm going to talk about a film that was first shown on Mystery Science Theater 3000 on December 21st, 1991. It's the American Christmas science fiction comedy film, Santa Claus Conquers the Martians. This film was directed by Nicholas Webster and stars John Call, Leonard Hicks, Vincent Beck, Pia Zadora, and many other wonderful people. This is the episode in which Crow and Tom look through department store holiday catalogs, and Joel asks them what they want for Christmas. The Mads invent a wish squisher, which turns good presents into bad gifts. On the SOL, the gang invents new toys for the island of misfit toys. At first break, there's a Christmas carol called Let's Have a Patrick Swayze Christmas. Later, Joel has some VHS tapes of other Christmas specials. We are treated to Christmas essays. Crow's is titled A Christmas Editorial, Tom's is A Child's Christmas in Space, and Joel's is about 70s office parties. And we finish with the gang singing their own version of Angels We Have Heard on High. There is Christmas stockings and a holiday letter, and we finish with the Mads gift exchange. Santa brings Christmas fun to Mars. Blast off for Mars with Santa and a pair of Earth kids. Science, fun, fiction at its height. See, the Martians kidnap Santa. Santa's North Pole Workshop. The Fantastic Martian Toy Factory. Earth kids meeting with Martian kids. Spaceship journey from Earth to Mars. Santa turns Mars robot into a mechanical toy. Wow, a lot there and a lot to think about. But I guess for the most part, the poster is accurate. Except for the title. I mean, seriously, does the jolly old man in the red suit actually conquer anything? I'm not so sure about that, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Now, this is the type of film that got me into doing what I do. I watch a film like this and I ask myself, how does a film like this come into existence? Seriously, it shouldn't exist, but somehow it does, right? And in most cases, I find it all starts with one person and a vision. And in a lot of these cases, that person really doesn't have the money to do the film that they want to do. And I'm guessing that's the case here. Now, this all starts with a man named Paul L. Jacobson. And I couldn't find anything out about this guy at all. I couldn't find out when he was born, what he did before this. I couldn't even find a picture of the guy. The only thing I know is he died in 2015. Now, I do know that he owned a company called Jailer Productions, however you pronounce it, and his idea was to make a film of a suspense novel called Cry Havoc. But while he was waiting for that to happen, he was talking to a friend of his named Arnie Leeds. Now, Arnie's another one I can find nothing about, but he would eventually become an associate producer and production manager on the film. Anyway, Arnie told him that, why don't you make a movie that's needed? And Paul responded, what is needed are Christmas films for kids. Now, to Paul's credit, up to this point there were almost no Christmas films aimed at kids. Definitely not any live action films. Remember, this was 1964. New York producer Paul Jacobson is concerned about the lack of children's films at Christmas time. Except for Walt Disney, there's very little during the season that kids could recognize and claim as their own. I wanted a story with the spirit of Christmas and Santa Claus, but with action and suspense too. Something for kids to identify with. After finding no suitable stories at the New York Library, he decided to write his own story. I wrote 3/4 of the treatment on a train to Mamaroneck. I read it to my children as a bedtime story and they reacted well. That gave me the confidence. Jacobson found a scriptwriter in Glenville Mareth, another person I can find almost nothing about. This seems to be his only credit, and it took him about 4 weeks to complete the final script. The picture was shot in 10 days, and it took about 6 weeks to do all the post-production, editing and music and sound effects and all that. Of course, it was made very cheaply for about $200,000. Instead of money, we used ingenuity, contends Leeds. We shot the film in TV fashion. In live TV, you had to get it right the first time. They cut corners doing things like using papier-mâché rocks, which they painted white for the North Pole and then repainted red for the surface of Mars. And they borrowed props from other productions, like the workshop control panel was from the fail-safe movie set. The film was shot out east in Long Island at a studio called Meyerberg, which I have read is now a shopping mall. Most of the cast was hired from the New York theater and television, and it was directed by Nicholas Webster. Nicholas lived from 1912 to 2006, and he was known for directing a lot of TV. It was distributed by Joseph E. Levine and his Embassy Pictures, and it was very successful for its time. You might find that surprising considering how people think of the film these days. Levine's newest success story is a kiddie picture called Santa Claus Conquers the Martians. It just opened in Chicago in a mere 100 theaters. And in 3 days, it did $120,000 on matinees alone. The flick was made in New York in 10 days for peanuts. And as a result of its hit, Paul Jacobson has been signed by Joe for 13 more pictures. Now, why don't we look at the cast? John Cull plays Santa Claus. John lived from 1908 to 1973. Apparently, he was playing Dr. Grimwig in a Broadway production of Oliver when he was cast for this film. John had been acting in TV and film since 1951, although most of his work was uncredited. A couple of his credits include playing Shorty in The Long Long Trailer in 1954 and O'Leary in the 1971 film The Anderson Tapes. Leonard Hicks plays Keemar. Leonard lived from 1918 to 1971, and besides one episode of Route 66, this is his only credit. Vincent Beck plays Voldar. Black lived from 1924 to 1984 and had a very long acting career. Santa Claus Conquers the Martians was one of his first acting credits, and he would go on to do a lot of TV work. He appeared in almost every popular show of the 60s. Bill McCutcheon plays the lovable Drapo. Bill lived from 1924 to 2002. He had a very long career both in TV and films, but was most successful for appearing in 92 episodes of Sesame Street as Uncle Wally. And if you ask me, he looks like an Uncle Wally. Victor Stiles plays Billy Foster. He was born in 1951, and as far as I know, is still alive today. He was another actor who was picked up from the stage production of Oliver, and his only other credit was playing the father of his character in this movie in a 2020 stage production of Santa Claus Conquers the Martians. Donna Conforti plays Betty Foster. She was born in 1953, probably still alive today, and this is her only credit. And the last actor I'll talk about is Pia Zadora, who plays Gurmar. She was born Pia Alfreda Scopani in 1954, and is still alive today. Pia would become famous in 1972 when she married Mashuliam Riklis. Pia was 18 and he was 49. In 1982, she would win that year's Golden Globe Award as Best New Star for the film Butterfly, but it was rumored that Riklis's money helped her win the award. She also went on to win for the same film 2 Golden Raspberry Awards, so there you go. So what is Santa Claus Conquers the Martians? Well, we open with this tune. After that, we see 2 green kids watching TV. They are Martian children who are watching an Earth newscast. On TV, we see an interview with Santa Claus at the North Pole. Is it me, or does Santa seem to have been helping himself to the eggnog a little bit too much?
There's a rumor that you're going to use a rocket sled.
No, sirree. We're going out the good old-fashioned way with my reindeer. Prancer and Dancer and Thunder and Blitzen and Vixen and Nixon.
I'll interrupt the story to mention the fact that I read that this was the first appearance of Mrs. Claus in film or on TV, so the film's got that going for it. The reporter eventually asks some hard-hitting questions.
I wonder if there really are people on Mars.
Well, who knows?
But there is life on Mars. We meet two of our main characters, Kimar and the comic relief Drapo, who seems to be sleeping on the job.
Stand up! Turn off that tickle ray! Stand up!
We know that Mars is technically advanced because they have a tickle ray for waking up people.
The children haven't been eating well. No appetite at all.
Oh, it's no wonder. They sit in front of the video set all day watching those ridiculous Earth programs. It confuses them.
I hear you, Kimar. Whether on Earth or Mars, children will be children, and they always seem to be a problem. On Mars, they're concerned because not only are their children fascinated with Earth TV, but they are depressed as well.
I'm worried about our children.
So am I. They've hardly eaten a thing in 3 days.
It goes deeper than that. They're behaving strangely. They appear to be troubled. They don't care to sleep. I had to use the sleep spray on them again.
Momar and Kimar are particularly concerned, so Momar suggests that Kimar speaks to Chochum, an 800-year-old Martian sage.
Attention, council chiefs. Gentlemen of the council, we will meet immediately at Chochum's chair in Thunder Forest.
What's wrong now, Kimar?
I don't know, Voldar, but I mean to find out.
So the council meets in the forest of the old sage. This includes Voldar, a Martian with a bad attitude.
What does Kimar think we are? A kindergarten class? Can't we make our own decisions? Must we always come crawling to that doddering old man?
Chochum is 800 years old. You can't dismiss the wisdom of centuries.
I can.
You know, there are over 7,000 languages spoken on Earth, and not only do the Martians speak one of them, but it happens to be English, so...
It is early December on Earth, close to the time of the Christmas. That explains it.
Chochum tells them about Santa and Christmas on Earth. We don't know why he knows that, but anyway, Voldar isn't impressed.
Bah, what nonsense.
You see that Martian children are raised in a cold, technologically advanced world, taught by computers and fed pills. They don't know how to love or play.
They've never played. They've never learned to have fun.
So Kimar, much to Voldar's anger, decides to go to Earth and get Santa.
Earth has had Santa Claus long enough. We will bring him to Mars.
I'm against it. Our children are fine the way they are. I don't want any Santa Claus bringing them toys and games. They'll start playing and laughing and running underfoot. They'll become a nuisance.
I've made my decision. We leave for Earth tonight.
They get to Earth very quickly. I'm assuming at the time of their voyage that Earth and Mars were both on the same side of the sun, making travel really quick. The US military takes notice, and we are treated to some stock footage. Stock footage, the low-budget filmmaker's best friend. The problem with the Martians is when they get to Earth, they encounter many Santas. They are all ringing bells for charity. And Drapo is discovered hiding in the ship.
What are you doing here, Drapo? Oh, well, Chief, I went to the launching pad so I could say goodbye to you, and I remembered. I've never been to Earth, so I thought I wanted to
I may leave you there in place of Santa Claus. Now get below. I'll deal with you later.
So to help find the right Santa, they turn to two Earth children, Billy and Betty Foster.
Perhaps you can help us, Billy. We're looking for one of your Santa Clauses.
There's only one Santa Claus.
We've seen many of them in your cities.
Oh, those are his helpers. There's only one real Santa Claus, and he's in his workshop up at the North Pole.
That's what we came here to find out. Let's go.
They kidnap these two Earth kids. On the spaceship, they quickly find a friend in Drapo, who takes them to part of the ship they shouldn't be in. When Voldar and a few men enter, the kids hide in the radar box.
Drapo, you stay aboard and guard those children. They must not leave the ship now.
Now or ever?
What do you mean, Voldar?
If we take them with us to Mars, Santa's disappearance will remain a mystery. No one on Earth will ever know that Santa Claus was kidnapped by Martians.
They overhear the Martians say that they can never go home, so they escape. To find the kids, the Martians use a robot named Torg. Now, the fact that they are in the Arctic Ocean and the average temperature there is negative 31 degrees Celsius or negative 24 degrees Fahrenheit means that if they just let the kids go, the situation would pretty much take care of itself, wouldn't it? Hey, I'm just being realistic. I'm saying the kids would freeze to death. Either that, or they would get eaten by a polar bear, and hey, I don't want it to happen, and I'm just trying to, but they don't freeze, and they aren't eaten. They're captured by the robot Torg.
Good work, Torg. Now destroy them. Crush them. Crush them, Torg.
Is it me, or does Voldar seem a little too excited about having these kids crushed to death? So the bottom line is the Martians kidnap Santa and take him with the 2 kids to Mars.
And Mrs. Santa Claus has positively identified the kidnappers as Martians.
On the spaceship on the way back to Mars, the Christmas spirit brings joy to all the Martians. All the Martians except Voldar, that is.
What's soft and round, and you put it on a stick, and you toast it in a fire, and it's green?
I don't know, what?
A marshmallow!
That's what you're all becoming. Marshmallows. Soft. Weak. That old man is a menace.
So Santa and the kids are locked in a jail cell. Droppo drops by for a little silliness.
Oh, you'll have a wonderful dinner tonight. Oh, there's soup and beef stew and chocolate ice cream.
Some chocolate ice cream.
Pills for dinner. I suppose if a Martian has a headache, he doesn't take pills. He takes chocolate ice cream.
Don't give up your day job, Santa. On the way to Mars, Voldar takes matters into his own hands by trying to shoot Santa and the 2 kids through the airlock to a cruel and horrible death in the cold and desolate vacuum of space. Could this be the end for Santa? There's only a small vent, much too small for Santa and the kids to crawl through, but...
Before I'm through with you, Voldar, you wish you were floating around out there in space. Merry Christmas, everyone! Santa Claus, you're all right.
Somehow they survive, and we don't see it or find out how, but we're going to just chalk it up to a little St. Nick magic.
But the air duct is just a little... And you're so big. Why, you're talking to Santa Claus, son.
Voldar is arrested. A few minutes later, Voldar escapes. We don't see that escape either. We can only assume that it was exciting, and we just have to use our imagination. And finally, we get to Mars. Santa quickly gets the green children laughing. Wow, does the atmosphere on Mars contain nitrous oxide? Santa is more than happy to help the Martians set up their own free toy manufacturing system for kids, but then he receives a bit of bad news.
Now, I'd like to get going and have the toy shop operating full blast so as I can return to Earth for Christmas. You know, Mrs. Claus is a very good-natured woman, but
Santa Claus, you will never return to Earth.
So now we have our setup, and this must be leading to the part where Santa Claus conquers the Martians, right? As the film title promised us. We already know that he has magical powers, so this ought to be good. But he must be careful. The Martians have those whammo air blasters. I mean ray guns. Voldar is reduced to living in a cave, plotting his revenge.
Santa Claus is on a constant guard. We couldn't get within 20 feet of him without being disintegrated. But I have other plans.
Things are really heating up. And we see how starved even the Martian adults are for toys as they get excited over a Slinky.
They got one little toy. It's the cutest thing. It's just a coil spring. And it goes down steps all by itself.
Now Santa's workshop on Mars looks a little different from his one on Earth. It's all automated. And that's a good thing, right? I mean, the cost of feeding and housing all those elves, it's gotta be tremendous. So this seems a lot more cost efficient to me. And I get the feeling that when Drapo shows an interest in wearing Santa's suit, that might come back a bit later. Kimar notices that the Earth children are depressed, and I don't know why that would be. I mean, they were just taken from their homes, from their family and friends, and there's no plan to ever return them to Earth. But more importantly, why is Kimar's hand white? To make a long story short, Drapo dresses up as Santa and plans to make some toys on his own. Meanwhile, Voldar and his gang are sabotaging the toy-making machine when Drapo walks in, so they kidnap him thinking he's the real Santa, not noticing his green face and whatever that is on his head.
Now stay put, my fat little friend.
Hey, Santa, how do you like this toy? Ho, ho, ho!
Back to the toy business. Nothing seems to be working right. Damn you, Voldar!
I can't understand it. Well, let's try it again. What's next, Betty?
One baseball bat.
Baseball, tennis. This'll never do.
Kimar, however, begins to put two and two together.
Drapo's gone, your suit is missing, and now this machine's been sabotaged. Put them all together, it spells Voldar.
When Voldar arrives with his men to blackmail Kimar, he discovers Santa is in the toy shop.
Are you sure you have Santa Claus?
You know we have him.
You mean you had him?
How did he get out of the cave?
Sim, the idiot!
And how did he get here so fast?
Voldar is arrested, but then Drapo escapes because the Martian guarding him isn't all that bright, and then Voldar escapes because Kimar isn't all that bright. Now I want to point out that these are the Council Chiefs of Mars, and this results in a lot of wackiness. Voldar, you do have a gun, you know. So this silliness goes on for over 2.5 minutes, and aren't we all just laughing so hard? But when it's all said and done, Drapo becomes the new Martian Santa, and Earth Santa and the Earth children are allowed to go home. We never do find out what happened to Voldar. I assume a public execution for attempting to overthrow the government. And we get that song again. Now, first of all, I get why many people think this is one of the worst films ever made, and it's not actually. I mean, when you take into account when it was made, the money it was made for, and who the target audience was, I mean, remember, kids didn't have a lot of Christmas movies, if any, at that time to watch. I'd say it's not that bad of a movie. Anyway, you know, I wouldn't want to watch it every day or even once a year. In fact, I wouldn't want to watch it more than once or twice in a lifetime. But still, I mean, put yourself into the shoes of kids back in 1964. Finally, a Christmas film, and not only is this a Christmas film with Santa, but it contains aliens, green aliens. I mean, it seemed like a good idea at the time, anyway. The music was composed by Milton DeLugg. Milton lived from 1918 to 2015. He was an American musician, composer, and arranger. He composed songs for folks like Nat King Cole, Doris Day, Eddie Fisher, Patsy Cline, and many more. He worked in TV, briefly as the musical director of The Tonight Show. He had a long association with Chuck Barris, beginning as an arranger of the original theme to the Newlywed Game and the musical director of The Gong Show. And yes, he even wrote the song Hooray for Santa Claus. I guess the music for the film is decent. I mean, it's acceptable. Now, there's a comic book version of this film that came out, and you can download it online, but it doesn't really answer any of the questions, like how did Voldar escape and things like that. Now, I have a question here. After the success of this film, it seems Paul L. Jacobson was on the fast track to a movie career. First, there was this article that says he was signed to a 13-picture deal, which I find hard to believe. But then there was a couple articles I found saying that he signed a 3-picture deal, and he had the 3 films he was going to make picked out. But as far as I know, this film was his only credit, so I'm just curious what happened to the dude. Why did he just fall off the map? I don't know. For today's obscure reference, we have this.
I want to see more toys.
No, go to sleep.
Will you buy me a Golden Globe then?
Why, sure.
And of course, that goes back to what I was referring to earlier, Pia Zadora in Butterfly winning the Golden Globe even though it was a flop, and the rumor went around that her husband bought off the judges. Is that true? I don't know. Anyway, the film is 81 minutes long, and Mystery Science Theater 3000 showed 75 minutes, and I'm really not sure what they cut out. I didn't bother to look. I'm assuming they cut out some of the stock footage of the US military, but I can't be sure about that. But why don't we watch the best 2 minutes of that film on MST3K?
Big John Call is Santa Claus in old little town of Bethlehem.
Oh man, this is really, really cheap animation. Clutch Cargo was better than this.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for the song.
Cha-cha-cha.
Well, she'll serve 12, and with a little Martian seasoning, she'll make a tempting main course.
Constance free.
Look, you're breaking my heart, Gramps. Can you get on with it?
What was wrong, Rigna?
A slight case of Droppo.
Activate Torg. Torg?
Talk. Time for go to bed.
It was after the apocalypse. No one was prepared for the robot holocaust.
Come here, you little ragamuffins.
Come on, Voldar.
Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition.
I love you.
It'll never work.
Santa left his medication at home.
Dad. Dad. Dad, please. All right, Santa, sing.
This never happened when we made toys by hand.
Oh, everything's better by hand. Go to bed, old man.
Let me remind you, once you hit that nuclear curtain, there won't even be a whisker left.
Blow dry and a rinse, old man?
You're going to relax permanently.
Good idea. Risk the kids' lives, Santa.
From the bottom of my heart,
I say bite
I
me.
wish you
I'm kidding, of course.
and yours
SATANTA. Hooray for Santa Claus. Is it over now?
Yeah. Oh, jeez.
So in 2 weeks, I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to combine shows 69 and 71 because they're both Master Ninja shows, and I'm going to get them both out of the way in one show because how much can you talk about 4 episodes of a failed 80s TV show, right? And then after that, I'll do The Castle of Fu Manchu, which is perhaps one of the worst films they ever shown on Mystery Science Theater 3000, and that'll finish up season 3. And then 2 weeks after that, we'll start season 4. So I hope you'll bear with me with that. I want to thank you all for watching the show. Really, I do. And I thank you for all the people who gave me their best when I was recovering from my operation. I really appreciate it. I'll be back in 2 weeks. And I hope you enjoyed my biography of Sid Haig last week. Sid was an amazing person. And somebody asked me, why do I call it a totally incomplete biography? Because he thought it was complete. And my thought there is, You can do a 2-hour documentary on a human being and you're still barely scratching the surface. So when I do a 10-15 minute documentary, yes, it's incomplete. And I've seen so many bad ones that are like 4 or 5 minutes long. Anyway, you get the idea. I want you to take care, stay healthy, and I'll see you in a couple of weeks. Bye.